Well, this one's a turn up for the book, something pretty quick and pretty good that I got to talk to you guys about today. It's details on the legendary Armoury, which is arriving in 1 week. Next week, if you've been following the game quite closely, you'll know it's the marionette patch people are pretty excited about. Right as I speak into the microphone right now, the Ember Bay phase of the Living World replay is going on too. And so I really didn't expect this blog post, but here it is. It's talking about the legendary Armoury, a much awaited feature since the devs announced it several months back now. If you're out of the loop, well, the idea is more quality of life and incentive for getting legendaries. Maybe you weren't interested in doing it in the past. As of this patch, things might change. They also seem to have done some really nice housekeeping as well. So without further ado, let's run on through and see what the blog post says. They open up with this shot here of what looks like a Reaper wielding Verdurak. That's the Gen 2 Warhorn. Actually, one of my favorite legendaries that I don't own right now. You equip it and it has this amazing ghost effect on Unsheath. They say powerful, flexible, and extremely cool. Legendary equipment is the ultimate prize for Tyrion's heroes, but it could be more ultimate. Next week, the legendary Armoury arrives, giving you a convenient way for all your characters to share every piece of legendary equipment you've unlocked in your many adventures across Tyria. So this is really the big headlight feature of the Armoury. Right now, when you make a legendary, it's account bound, so any of your characters can theoretically use it, but you have to go through this kind of annoying process of unequipping it, put it in the bank, character swapping, use it on the new character, and then maybe do the whole thing in reverse again to get back to where you originally were. Sure, maybe you have a few account inventory slots that help out a bit, but when we're talking about lots of gear, lots of trinkets, armor maybe that you've been working on, all of a sudden it's a bit of a nightmare. And the game here is to remove that tedium. Once this patch hits, every single level 80 character you have, and you know, your account can have, what, 64 of them if you like, will always all have instant access to those legendaries at once. That also therefore means you get the perks of that legendary for all of your accounts. You get free upgrade extraction, free attribute swapping. You can go from Berserker to Viper and back a million times if you like. And of course, on top of that, instant free access to all new attribute combos they ever add. Like when End of Dragons comes out and undoubtedly adds some new stats, you don't even have to work for them. You'll just have them straight away on everyone because you have this legendary gear. So it's really, really kind of crazy. I actually think this is a step too far in terms of convenience and stuff. What ArenaNet's essentially doing is making a new class of player. Those who have legendaries will have a completely different experience of the game, in my estimation, to everyone else. And to catch up to that bar is a hell of a lot of grind and a hell of a lot of effort. And I think moving us deliberately into that world isn't very Guild Wars. But hey, I've watched them do tons of these quality of life updates to legendaries through the years, and every single time the community has applauded it. So what is the Armoury if not just another pebble on the mountain? So that's the general idea. We've known that for a while. The blog post can now tell us exactly how it will work and answer weird questions like, can you have different transmutes on all of the different characters, and different upgrades on all the different characters, and different assignments for its attributes? The answer to all those questions, by the way, is yes, and it's very, very cool. They say your entire roster of impeccably dressed characters, level 80 characters, will have free and easy access to your unlocked legendary weapons, your armor, your back items, trinkets, runes, and sigils without suffering the indignity of having to dig through your bank for them. So, by the way, as far as runes are concerned there, you can pretty much make 7 legendary runes. That's 6 for your armor and 1 for the Aqua Breather, and never have to make another one. Don't forget, they're not split between heavy, medium, and light and stuff, so it's actually quite a low bar to be fully decked out for that area of buildcraft compared to other stuff. You know, there's a lot of weapons, there's a lot of categories of armor. Sigils, you might want to go way more than 7 because you got all the weapons of your core class and then the elite specs, which they'll keep adding to over the years. So here's our image, and now this is quite surprising to me. This isn't what I expected. I thought that the Armoury would be a tab all of its own. You know how we have equipment there, and then builds, and then training, and then story journal. I thought it would be its own thing, and they'd give us a whole new UI where we can really mouse over all the different potential legendaries we could collect. You know, it'd look a bit like the Vault, but way flashier. And that was actually the thing that I was looking forward to the most and really excited me, especially because I think it would appeal to collectors in a great way. And it doesn't really look like the devs have done that at all. There is some new UI, but it looks like it might be kind of temporary, which I've got a bit of a criticism about. We'll see in a second. So yeah, it looks like now, once it's in the Armoury, we're on our equipment panel. Check it out. You can see at the top, there's all this gear loaded up straight away with, in the upper left corner, this new like tab showing, hey, this is something that's in the Armoury. The character in question has a full set of everything. They've got all the armor, all the trinkets that currently exist in the game, terrestrial and underwater weapons available. You'll also notice maybe a bit of an Easter egg. They have a plus 30 agony infusion on there, which is insanely expensive, like ludicrously expensive to collect. And it looks like they've actually done that in all the slots because the character has 540 agony resist, which is hilarious. Whoever made the screenshot was clearly having some fun. I have to say, in the same position, I'd probably do a similar thing. So you'll see there's this new text at the bottom that says, Legendary Armoury, available 0, unlocked 1. You cannot unlock any more of this item in your Armoury. Well, what's that all about? Here's what they say. When you log into the character July 13th, account-bound legendary weapon in your character inventories, panels, account bank will automatically be converted into your Armoury. The Armoury is entirely free and will be automatically including all equipment released in the future. So yeah, a little note there, they're saying it's free. I guess the whole build template thing where they triple dipped on monetization really damaged ArenaNet's reputation because a lot of people have wanted that clarification. People think you'd actually have to pay for the luxury of using the Armoury after you've already worked your ass off to get legendary gear. It's not that at all. It's a pure quality of life, useful feature with no paywalls at all, and I think there's no surprise here that the blog post has explained that very early on. They say unbound legendaries can remain in your inventory. If you own bound copies of Sunrise or Twilight, these great swords will be added to the Armoury and you'll receive tokens to use them in crafting Eternity. So yeah, Eternity was a bit of a weird case because you could have like unbound ones that you craft into Eternity itself, which comes out bound, and you could do some weird tricks with that. It obviously didn't play very well with the Armoury, so they've tweaked that a bit, which is nice. Each piece of equipment in your legendary Armoury is treated as a unique item, just as it would be if it was in your inventory. If you want to customize an equipment template by equipping a legendary sword bolt in 2 weapon slots, you'll need to obtain and bind 2 copies of bolt. So here's something I didn't expect. That's incentive to actually grab multiple of the same legendary again, which kind of went away with the transmutation system, kind of. There is a title in the game sort of as compensation for that, way back with that old update, the Twice Told Legend title, which I did actually go for. I have 2 incinerators, but that actually does mean something as far as the Armoury is concerned. What that basically means, guys, is if you're now thinking, oh, I want a fully legendary maxed out account, you would need 4 daggers, for example, or 2 foci or 2 staves to really fill the whole thing up, and it would take a very long time. They say the maximum number of copies of an item in the Armoury is determined by how many equipment slots it can occupy. This limit exists so you don't have to worry about accidentally unlocking more copies of a legendary than you can even equip. Since no character can ever equip more than 4 swords at once, your Armoury will hold a maximum of 4 copies of Bolt, and a maximum of 4 copies of the Shining Blade. An equipment template only has space for 2 staves, so your legendary Armoury will hold a maximum of 2 Bifrost and 2 Nevermore. So you can already see just how many you'd have to go for if you really wanted to max this thing out. And don't forget the crucial news earlier in the month, or last month, where they confirmed that after End of Dragons, they'll be starting another wave of legendaries, the Generation 3 legendaries. And all that, of course, would go into this new feature. They say hover your cursor over your stored legendary items to see information on how many copies you have ready to equip, how many you have unlocked, and how many more you can unlock. That's the little tooltip that I just read out for you guys. These numbers are also visible in the upper right corner of each item's icon. We've identified a small number of players, this is 0.008% of the community, who own more account-bound copies of a unique legendary item than their legendary Armoury can hold. We'll reach out to those players in the days following the release with information on how to resolve the issue. So let's be clear, this is people who have them account-bound. They're not talking about like TP Baron accounts or real money trader accounts and people doing unscrupulous stuff. This isn't stuff waiting to be traded. These are players who have bound like 5 incinerators. Like, how crazy is that? Yeah, that's no surprise to me that that's 0.008%. I kind of, to tell you the truth, I kind of really want to, in this week, find a way to put myself into that 0.008% and see what they do, because that's a way to get a mail from them, right? And they'll find a way to reimburse you, I suppose. Somebody should do it for the science and let me know how it goes. Okay, we have a cool image coming up, so bear with me. Next section, they say, once a legendary item is stored in your Armoury, every 80 character on the account can use it, provided it's available to their profession or elite spec. You'll find your legendaries in your equipment tab along with all your equipable inventory items, but they'll no longer take up any space in your inventory. You can equip items from your armory by double-clicking them or clicking and dragging them onto a slot. Right-clicking an equipment slot will bring up a drop-down menu where you can also do it. So basically all the current standard methods of equipping gear and manipulating them and so on in that right-click context menu is all the same. It all works. Now here's a cool clarification. Once you've equipped a legendary item to multiple templates, so one legendary across multiple templates, you can set different attributes, different upgrade selections, and skins all for each legendary. Now that's really fun. So I can have 6 different templates on my one character and all using greatsword, except the greatsword looks different each time, and in one build it's a Condi greatsword, in the other build it's a healing greatsword, and another is power. Fantastic. I mean, this is basically every little bit of quality of life I think people would have been asking for. Right, now here's a cool screenshot. So this is the UI I alluded to a second ago. It says at the top, congratulations. We get what looks to me to be a generic image, and then down below it says bolts, and there's a little bit of lore. It says interwoven with an impression of a dragon's whose name Tyria has yet to learn. Bolt is imbued with the strength of a storm, swelling inside like a thunderous inferno, eager to aid its wielder in combat. Items unlocked in your legendary armory are available for all your characters. They can be found in the equipment tab or your hero panel, alongside all of your other equipment. And maybe another Easter egg. Look, that's Cormier's library, isn't it? A very fitting place that whoever took this screenshot went to. We don't really get to bask in its glory, but yeah, a cool place for the armory. Alright, so this UI is obviously really cool in terms of, like, you're going to feel a lot more rewarded when you finally finish that legendary. They already tried to do this a bit with Heart of Thorns with the whole legendary crafting and the mastery system changes that they made back then. But this is definitely going to feel really big and profound. I wonder if to bring this panel up, we actually click a floating icon above our minimap as well. And maybe if that's a unique icon too, that'll really drive it home. You know, a bit like when you finish map comp and the icon's really unique and flashy and you feel like you've done something major. So all of that's cool, and obviously an opportunity for more lore is fun. But I think it's a bit disappointing, really, that it strikes me, since it says congratulations at the top, this is really just when we first craft the legendary. After I click one of those 2 buttons at the bottom down there, I think this thing's going to be gone, isn't it? I mean, we're not going to be able to bring it back up. We're not going to be able to admire our collection. That's really what I wanted the armory to be able to do. I wanted a UI that hosted all this extra lore and so on. And the image. So if this is a unique image for every legendary, that's amazing. Like, I will be really thrilled with that. I would immediately, like, data mine or look on the wiki at the very least at what all of the art is, and it would feel really cool then. Say a Living World patch comes out that adds a new legendary, that kind of that race for it and that feeling of seeing whatever this unique information, this unique picture is. But the question is it actually unique art, or is it something generic they've just done for all of them? I mean, maybe they could have one image per generation. I don't know. So the lore is kind of hinting at the deep sea dragon, and then the art maybe looks like it's got a swimming looking dragon-ish thing there. But then what about the other stuff? So I don't know. I'm a little bit disappointed in the particulars here. Also, the lore is kind of fun, right? And weird, because aren't we about to go into an expansion that will reveal to us exactly who the deep sea dragon is or what its name is and so on? In which case, isn't immediately this description for bolts gonna become anachronistic and need an update because we will have learned the name of the dragon? Or have they actually betrayed a deeper story beat here, and the truth is we'll never properly learn its name, and this text will always apply? These are the kind of weird little wriggles I constantly see in Guild Wars where it's like, are they thinking long term about what they're doing? And also, I thought it was more Kraukatorik's thing to be about storms and lightning and stuff. Are we saying that there's some of that element now in the Deep Sea Dragon? Perhaps it took it from Kraukatorik with his death? But I gotta say, I'm really looking forward to reading through these. Not just because there will be lore bombs. You know, I want to read the one about Shushadu, the quaggan in a bowl, and what exactly they say there. I want to read about Ippos, and who maybe the previous wielder of the Binding of Ippos was, and more information about the Demon Hand, and what exactly is being summoned. And then what about legendary armor? Do we learn about the previous people who owned our legendary armor? Are they going to give us more tangibles about what the hell was going on with the PvE set and the envoys, which kind of just fizzled out in the end through those collections? The legendary world versus world and PvP armor might not have unique skins, but will they get unique reward lore? Or are they just going to copy paste random envoy lore into them? That's going to be a strange one. I'm guessing too, for those of us who have already crafted legendaries before this update comes out, we're just going to log in and be clicking through a ton of these notifications in a row. I don't know, maybe I should stream or make a video about that. That's possibly something you'll see on my channel coming up. Alright, so that's mostly the Armoury details done. However, there were some other quality of life changes just in general to legendaries that they list at the bottom here, which are really substantive. Let's go through. They say, in this update, we've polished some details to make using legendaries more fun and convenient. First of all, legendaries will have free transmutation. Changing the appearance of a legendary equipment no longer requires transmutation charges. They say build equipment and build templates. You can now click an arrow that will appear above the weapon swap toggle button. So you know how like there's a little arrow that appears above the mount up icon that they added for like the novelties and the novelty menu? I expect it to look like that. It says if you click this arrow, you can quickly swap in and out of our different equipment and build templates. Now there are already hotkeys for this. You have to do like a separate hotkey for a build and a separate one for an equipment template. Binding them together isn't a thing, which really sucks because you're obviously going to want to use both. If this new feature does two at once, I'm going to be using it all the time, especially while I'm out there roaming in World vs. World. You know, I see someone on the horizon, I anticipate whether they're going to be Condi or Power or something, quickly swap. This is going to be brilliant. They also say, congratulations, binding a legendary to your account offers a little more fanfare and some hints about the item's nature, origin, previous owners. That's what we read a second ago. And lastly, they say, begone magic spheres. Legendary trinkets that are available with and without effects, like Conflux and Transcendence, will now feature a visibility toggle for their effects. So here, if we go back to this other screenshot, if you take a look at the trinkets, you will see they're obviously all the legendary trinkets. The two on the bottom row now have a toggle on and toggle off icon. Now, there's a few things to say on this. Obviously, it's a great update. A lot of people never made even basic legendary trinkets like Aurora because they don't like those bubbles and they don't think it really fits with the cosmetics of their character. Being able to toggle them off means a ton to me, especially as someone who really liked the Guild Wars 1 style of character designs and gear that really had barely any auras around at all. Guild Wars 2 actively forcing them on you is, you know, just so bizarre to me. So it's nice to see that that's changed. However, you'll notice that not all of the trinkets do have that button on there. The way that they phrase this, they say the ones that have a toggle. So what they're talking about is just two legendaries. They're talking about the PvP amulet and the World vs. World ring, which have like an extra stage of the crafting process that you could use to opt in to having visuals. So those you can toggle off. I guess they just don't have the entire update ready right now. So the other ones, like Aurora, which don't have that optional other version, they'll come later. I have to assume that they'll come later. The blog post doesn't actually say it though, so fingers crossed that the ArenaNet are actually thinking about that. The other thing that really strikes me about it is, you know, we're all very used to seeing that icon on the top right, the checkbox to toggle on or off. But remember, that checkbox classically is a function of the slot, not the gear. So I actually kind of like the idea of them formalizing all of these just slots as having cosmetics on them. And maybe that opens up some new interesting reward ideas a little bit further down the road. But yeah, this last section seems a little bit 50-50, but clearly their ambitions are exactly where I think most of us in the community want them to be. And it's just going to be a matter of time. So there you have it, guys. That's the details on the Legendary Armoury. Overall, I'm really, really impressed and happy with this. It's not actually what I imagined it to be at all. And there is kind of a big facet that I feel like I'm missing out on. But generally, I do view this as a brilliant update, especially just for the simple fact that it's increased incentive to get legendaries. And Guild Wars is never more fun than when you have a sense of progression and purpose and something that you're going for. Just this past Christmas, I went through this exact process myself, getting all these legendaries, and it was a lot of fun while it lasted. This is like the biggest issue with Guild Wars 2. People need long-term goals and things to go for that they really feel like is worth it. Any patch that addresses that is just going to be fantastic for making our guilds feel more full, getting more players around, and keeping the game a success. Let me know what you think down below. I'll be watching the comments very closely. Probably have some follow-up discussion on this in my next episode of End of Dragons Daily. That's a daily podcast I do every single day. I'd love to see you guys over there. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you want people to grind with, by the way, you can click a link in the description to head over to my Discord. We've got a big community and continually growing. You can even join the in-game guild. Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon.